everyone, welcome to the third episode of this series where I chat to a guest about coding. Just for a bit of background about today's guest, Kinga and I met at university. We met in Barcelona. We studied the data science masters together, and we also worked together for the master's practicum. So yeah, Kinga, if you'd like to briefly introduce yourself, where are you from, where do you live?
Sure, thanks for the opportunity, Emily. And actually, I kind of forgot that we also worked together because it was such a strong memory for me that we spent this master together in Barcelona, where we studied data science, that this whole internship just got out of my mind. So similarly to you, I studied the data science in Barcelona. Before that, my background is in finance and economics. These were my previous studies, and then I slowly converted more to data science and coding. And since the master, I have been living in Barcelona, and I tried myself in different work environments, from consulting to working in different startups. And currently I'm working for a quite big Spanish startup as a data product manager.
Nice, thank you. So let's start from the beginning. How did you discover coding? How did you start coding?
So my coding journey goes back to my times in economics. I did my master program in economics, and I was very interested in statistics and econometrics, which is like one specific area inside economics. And it requires a lot of statistical modeling. You have to run a lot of different regression models. I mostly ran regression models. And after the university, I kept working in this area. I worked in the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. I think I forgot to mention that I'm from Hungary, but from that, it must be clear. So I worked in econometrics, and econometricians, they use a very interesting software called Stata to run different statistical models. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I got more and more involved in how to actually code there. And with this, so soon this different and new world opened up for me. I learned that actually you cannot only use Stata, but there is like R or Python out there to do different kind of modelings. And then also, like, it opened this whole world of data science to me. So for me, actually, the thing that drove me into coding was not coding itself, but the different applications. That I understood that if I learn this skill and have this knowledge, then I can understand much more topics. Like, I can go much more deep in different analyses and understand the data that I have on hands better. So from this like Stata econometrics world, I started to learn first Python. I took some Python courses, both online and in person, for different applications. I got really, really into text mining first and gained some knowledge there, and then just like broadened my interest and my skills to learn different aspects of coding. But for me, it was always the application.
Wow, that's really amazing that you understood the wider application first and then realized that coding was a means to achieve all of these different things. Because maybe, you know, for some people, they just hear about coding, they think it's something they should learn, so then they go straight into the details of which language they should focus on or what framework. So that's, I think, that must have been a very inspiring journey for you.
No, for me, absolutely. And I think it's also, so when we talk about data science and like data people that are coding, I really see that there are a lot of different profiles out there. So you have those that are coming from, for example, a very strong engineering or technical background, very strong coding skill. And then there are also more like my profile that comes more from an application oriented or application focused background, and then picked up the engineering and coding skills on the way. And I think it's good if you have both of them, and then you can combine, and everyone can learn from the other.
Wow, okay, I think that's really inspiring for people to hear, because so Kinga was like the best in the cohort, and it's even more inspiring to hear that you picked up coding like later in life rather than, you know, from when you were 12, or because you have a lot of people's stories start that way as well, but it's inspiring to hear that you can always pick up code later and it's not too late to start learning.
No, definitely not. it's a different experience for sure, but I don't think it's ever too late. I mean, if you are interested, you can always pick it up.
So you've already talked about, how you got into coding, but in case there were any other details, why do you love coding? What is most fun to you about coding?
So for me, which kind of resonates of what I said before, is that you can actually create something that is working. And I remember my first experience. So my first experience with Python was text mining. I was downloading a lot of data from web pages and then try to understand some trends and some trending topics. And when I started, I honestly had no idea about coding. So it was very hard to conceptually or just like imagine that you write something and that will have an output. And now what I see, I saw in this project and I see in my daily life, is that you are writing this combination of letters at the end of the day, and actually there is an output that produces something and makes something tangible. And I really enjoy that process.
Okay, I think that's very similar to my reasoning as well. Like when you realize how much you can build with coding, it's incredible that this one tool, obviously it's very wide, lots of different languages, lots of different ways you can use it, but it's really inspiring. So what do you do now? Do you code a lot for work?
So I don't code right now at the moment, which sometimes I miss. I would say that I still do some analysis, but my work diverted a bit in the past year. And what I do is that I'm a data product manager for a team that combines currently backend engineers and machine learning engineers. And I am responsible that they are building products and they are adding parts to the product that actually has value. So I'm coming up with what we should work on, how we can improve it, and just guiding them. And I really enjoy it. I think it's actually a lot of advantage if you know coding, because at the end of the day you are working with people that they do the job. So it's good if you have this like hands-on experience with coding, but at the moment I'm not doing it.
Oh wow!
Which is a bit sad.
Okay, that's really cool. It's also nice to see how paths can lead to from when you first, when you first start coding, you're doing all of the not grunt work, but you're doing
the dirty work
yourself. And now you actually oversee all of that, and because you have an understanding of it, you know exactly what's going on, but you kind of manage it. That's really cool.
Yes, no, and I really enjoy it, and I'm super glad that I could have this opportunity inside my company. That they trusted me enough to do that, because it's kind of a unique role as well, on overseeing all these different profiles and combining them, and make sure that we deliver the best. By the way, what we are working on specifically, to give some more details without going really into the details, is we are building a marketplace that matches workers with jobs. And what we are responsible for is the recommendation and the matching system that actually decides who is a good fit and who is the best fit within those that are good fit for a certain job.
Wow, that's really cool. I feel like...
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I was looking up LinkedIn recently, and I'm not sure if it's a new feature, but I've seen that, there's also that aspect of like, either most of your skills match it, or you're the ideal candidate, or not.
Or not, yeah.
But you guys go, maybe you'll be acquired by LinkedIn or something.
So our workers are a bit different profiles. It's mostly low-skilled workers.
Oh, cool.
But at the end, I think the logic is a bit similar. It's just that you have to compare different skills to make sure that someone will actually show up and do the work. And in that sense, it's a bit different from LinkedIn. But of course, there are thousands of similarities and use cases that you can generalize to other marketplaces.
Wow, that's a really important task.
Yeah, I really like it.
Because I think in general, so this is generalizing way too much, but I think it's very easy for a lot of companies in the economy to neglect the lower socio-economic background people and just focus on the top of the top skills, and there's a bit of a gap. So that's really good.
No, it's a completely different market. It's not something that, I mean, luckily I don't have first-hand experience. And, like the first ideas you have are super, and they're just not related to the reality. You really have to rethink of like, okay, you want to do a good match, like what can it be? And it might be something completely different from what you have on your mind when you think about choosing a job or deciding or listing pros and cons about an opportunity.
Okay, wow, thanks Kinga. And do you have any tips or advice for people starting out their coding journey, so people completely new to coding?
So I think at the beginning it's going to be difficult, especially if you pick it up later. I think the learning curve is not always very motivating at the beginning, but you just have to like keep doing it and keep asking questions and try to understand how to do, because I really promise you or everyone who is trying coding that it will get better, and then the flow will come and then you will enjoy it. And the other thing, which is I think very specific, so when I was thinking before our interview today, is that for me having a good application was super important. That if you work for something that you are passionate about, whatever it is, I mean for me it was statistical analysis, but it can be anything like robotics or web design. So whatever really interests you, pick something and then try to learn it. And then if you know this context, then you can just generalize it, because at the end of the day, there are thousands of common patterns. So pick a use case that you like ace it and learn everything that you want. And then you can see how your knowledge is applicable for other areas. And then you can be a super cool coder or whatever you have on your mind.
Yeah, I love that, because I think there's a lot of general advice out there, or in general people saying, everyone can learn how to code, and that's true, but I think like anything in life, there's a learning curve at the beginning, and a lot of people who start, I mean, that's already a huge first step to actually start and put your mind to doing it.
Absolutely.
But then after you start, there's a learning curve where a lot of people might fall off because they think it's not for them, but you absolutely cannot know in the first 3 weeks, because some people not catch up later, but some people take a bit longer to get it, but once they get it, they're very strong.
No, exactly.
So
it's easy to get discouraged at the beginning, because especially if you don't have a coding background, it's a completely new concept. It's like learning a new language. Like you're not going to learn a language in 3 weeks, or I don't know, in my case with Spanish, even in 5 years. And coding is just like that. You have to adjust your mind and then just stick to it and do it.
Yeah, if you start later, it's not really like anything you've done before if you haven't done anything programmatic. If you learn a new language, hopefully if it's similar to your native language, you have something to compare to. But if it's your first ever coding language, it's a completely
different mindset. Yeah.
So, but stick to it, because it's worth it and it gets fun. And
Absolutely.
the better you get, the more fun it gets.
I agree. And then once you have your first own applications or your first own pipelines, that's an amazing feeling. And it can be as simple as it gets. And then later on, much more complex. But I think you will just love that you created something.
Absolutely, 100% agreed. Thank you so much, Kinga, for all of your insights and your time today. It was really interesting to hear your thoughts.
Thanks for having me.